Hey everybody, welcome to CellularDyes. My name is Ethan Williams and this is my very first tutorial. So I'm going to give it a shot. Had a lot of requests on Reddit and Facebook and Instagram to show kind of my process of how I dye my discs and how I get the look that I do. So I've got all my material over here and we're going to give it a shot. So let's get into it. Okay, so I already started the process before I started filming, and then I realized I should probably film this for my first tutorial. So here is some Floratrol. Some of it is, plain white. Some of it has some dye already poured in. Some of it's already mixed. And then here's my pan where I make my bed. I like to do it in a pan because if I want to add heat or do anything with it, it's very versatile. I can use it with my oven. I don't have any sort of heating pads. I don't have any torches, anything fancy. So I just got this at a little thrift store for $1, and it works great. I like that it has a beveled edge, and so the disc sits nicely in that. So the white stuff here is not glue. It's actually this. It's called Flood Floratrol, and I guess it's a paint additive. You can find it at Home Depot. It flows really nicely, and it doesn't get quite as sticky as glue does. And then for the dyes that I use, I actually just bought the basic 6-pack from Pro Chemical Dyes. If you go to their website, they have these 6 dyes. It's the 6 colors you'll need: yellow, orange, red, purple, blue, and green. And it's very reasonably priced, and they work incredibly. And then this is called silicone oil over here. We won't be using it today, but that's for making cells in dyes. And cells, are kind of my specialty. When I do use Floratrol, you can kind of tell, if I can focus here, that I get this larger bubbly effect on my dyes. See it there as well. I'm not going to use that today. I'm actually looking for more small cells, which you can still get with this silicone oil. But I'm not going to use silicone oil today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use Saran wrap and just pull it across the bed, and that should work well. Okay, so for today's dye, I'm going to be dyeing this Legacy Fighter. It's a commission that somebody's asked me to do. It's white, which is nice, and he wants to keep the stamp on it, so the stamp I think will pop nicely against the dye. So I'm going to be using 5 different colors today: yellow, orange, red, purple, and blue, and also some white, which is just plain Flood Floratrol. And I don't know that I'm saying that right. Flotrol, whatever it is. So what I did is I put about 1/4 teaspoon of dye in there. This isn't a lot of medium, and so you don't need a ton of dye. Probably 1/4 teaspoon might be too much too. But I just mix it with a stick here, a really thin stick. You can use thick, you can use popsicle sticks, whatever you want. And I like to mix it very well. If you don't mix it very well, then you'll get a very grainy texture in your dyes. It won't be smooth. And so the smoother that you can make your Floratrol, the better. So I have mixed all of the colors up. They're good to go. With this one, I am going to do kind of like a striped pattern. Now they're obviously just in plastic cups, so I'm not going to be very exact or specific. If you want very exact or specific lines and things like that, you would use probably more like condiment containers to squeeze out, I'm just a very messy artist when it comes to this, so I don't really care about it being exact. One thing that I do want to do is avoid putting opposite colors near each other. That works really well if you just want the bed for one disc, but if you're going to be reusing this bed for multiple discs, you'll see later on that we're gonna pull all of this dyed Floetrol in with each other, and when we pull it, that's what creates the cells. And when you pull, you know, yellow mixed with purple, it creates brown. And usually after the first pull, the colors will stay pretty separated, but after doing a disc or two, it all starts to muddy up. So I'm going to keep similar colors near each other. For instance, I think for the middle, I'll probably use some purple here, and so I'll just kind of spread it out just like this. Maybe some going the opposite way a bit. Let's see. Yeah, just real thin lines, something like that is great. And then on one side, I'll probably do the darker color. So we'll go darker on top. So this blue here, I'm gonna go in just above it, but I'm gonna make sure that it kind of spreads over top of the purple as well. Those were thicker lines, and that's totally fine. Whatever comes out, comes out. These dyes are definitely not gonna be perfect. So the one color I am missing is green, and so I don't like a lot of green in my dyes, because I noticed that when blue mixes with yellow, obviously it creates green, and I like very minimal green in mine. So I'm gonna put this yellow up here, and that'll mix with the blue and probably create some green in this dye. I just like it to be minimal. So on the other side of this purple here, I'm gonna put this red here, similar pattern. Just kind of throwing it down. And then off of this red is where I'm going to put all of my orange. Just like that. And then what I'm going to do, cells, like I said before, cells are kind of my specialty, and how you make cells is all this layering that starts to happen. The red over top of the purple, or the orange on top of the red, or the yellow on top of the blue. That's kind of where cells will be created. Another way to create cells is I like to just put plain Floetrol over top of everything, just like this, and that'll create some layers of white that'll kind of pop. Once we pull this, we're going to take some saran wrap and pull it across this bed. Okay, now I'm going to do it again, and this time I'll start with yellow up here. Pour it in there. Cool. Okay, I think it's time to pull this with the saran wrap. Okay, so this is where we're going to put saran wrap on top of the bed, and I'm going to drag it across this way so it doesn't. If I drug it this way, it would bring the orange through the reds and blues and muddy things up a bit, which works maybe one time for a cool looking disc, but then it'll muddy it all up and turn brown. So I'm going to drag it this way, and that'll hopefully keep most of the colors pretty clean. You can also just lift it straight up. You can put saran wrap down and lift it straight up and throw that away, and that'll make cells pop. That's kind of what I did right here. Focus in. Kind of what I did on this Raptor here, was I lifted it, and this was also with you got these big cells in here because I use that silicone oil, and I'll do a tutorial on how to do silicone oil on my next one, but for this one I'm going to be dragging the saran wrap across the bed. So here's my saran wrap. I'm going to try to lay this down in here. So I like to lay it over top, get it kind of centered where I want it. And then I just kind of push it gently down on top of the bed like so. Just like this. Making sure that the saran wrap touches the surface of the bed everywhere. With everything with this type of dyeing though, it never needs to be perfect because no dye is going to be perfect. It's, you know, if you wanted to create something exactly a certain way, cell dyeing isn't really the technique for me at least. There's other techniques that are a little bit more exact. This kind of dyeing is just messy and fun, and you get what you get, and it's exciting, and that's why I love it. Is every dye is different. There's not a single one that looks the same. Cool. So I've got the saran wrap down. I'm gonna pull these edges over here, and then literally I just very slowly drag the saran wrap across. Important to go slow, otherwise some of the dye and Floetrol might not get dragged at the end here. Okay, so that's drug, and then the saran wrap can just be thrown away. And then what I like to do is I like to throw it in the oven with the broiler on. Some of you might cringe when I say that, but I don't have a torch, and this is just the easiest way. I don't put it in for long, so it won't damage the bed won't damage the bed at all. But cells are already starting to pop. I don't know if you can see that, but once we put it in the oven, those cells will really start to pop. So you're not gonna get a crazy good look at this, but I'm putting the bed in the oven, the broiler's on, so it's just these top coils that are getting really hot and red. And what it's doing is it's popping all the bubbles in there, and it's starting to make those cells kind of raise to the surface. Sometimes I kind of like to bang it like that. Makes the cells kind of pop and bring to the surface a little more quicker. Yep, and we're starting to get some cells. I might pop it in there in a bit again. I don't like to get the bed too hot, so you can do this multiple times, but you don't want to leave it in for very long. So there's the bed after one go at the oven. You can see lots of little dots, little cells happening there. Kind of liking the way it's looking. You might end up spinning it or doing different things to create a little bit more dynamics rather than just the straight lines. It'll be a little swirly, so I'm going to probably end up putting it in the oven one more time just to help those cells pop a little more. So this is kind of the bed after one go underneath the broiler. I'm going to spin it. It'll kind of help create some cool wavy lines. It'll also help the bed cool off a bit, so I can put it under the broiler again. Yeah, so this bed is cooled off enough. I'm gonna just put it in this broiler one more time. Lift it up, get it nice and close to those hot coils. Maybe hit it a few times. Just get it nice and bubbly. Okay, so here's the bed after the second pass in the oven. The cells didn't get huge, which I want them to stay small. I just think it helped define some of those cells a little bit more. Okay, here is the finished bed. I'm gonna put my disc in there. See if I can get some details. How close I can get here. There we go. Got some pretty cool cells popping, especially in this yellow, green, blue area here. Very nice. Got some in this area over here too. It's nice. Before I ever lay a disc into a bed, I always wash it. I wash it with hot water, soap. I use one of these scrubbers. I don't use the green side. I don't want to hurt the stamp. I always use this yellow side and I scrub it good because a lot of times they'll put some sort of chemical or something in, or, you know, when they press these discs in order to help them pop out of the press, put a chemical down. It can really mess with your dyes. So always wash it, hot water, soap, and dry it off. Okay, so I'm about to lie this disc into the bed here. I've already washed it and everything like that. One thing that I was going to mention is disc placement. I like to look at the bed and decide where I want this design to fit onto this disc, especially when you're working with stamps. If I have a dark stamp on a disc, I want to put the majority of the stamp, or the most important part of the stamp, in the lightest part of the bed. Now this stamp is a light colored stamp, so I want it in the darkest part of the bed, which I think is going to be this bluish purple area here. So I'm going to be lying this disc kind of flipped over like that, so that this fighter section is going to be in this bluish purple area. And the trick that I use is I put 4 fingers under the rim here, 4 fingers under the rim here, and I typically lie, you know, one end first, and I just touch it into the flow trawl, and then I just kind of gradually, slowly lay it down to prevent any bubbles. You never want to press down or push down the disc ever, because this design will start to look really muddy, and that's not good. So here we go, disc in, send it. And then once I get to the point where I can feel the disc is laying there, I just go ahead and gently let go. And at first, when I first started, I was worried about this outer edge here, because it would seem as though it wasn't touching. But if you give it time, it'll settle down in there. You don't need to push it down. That'll ruin your die. Cool, and now I'm going to put this in the oven. I actually opened the oven door. I turned off the broiler, opened the oven door, let it cool off a bit, but it's still pretty warm in there, and I like to get the disc warm. And I put this in the oven, in a warm oven with the door open, up until the oven, you know, you can touch the metal inside the oven, and it's still going to be warm but not hot enough that it'll burn you. And then I close the oven door, and I'll leave it in the oven for about 4 hours. I like to use heat because I feel like you get a lot of saturation. It makes everything look crisp. When you leave it for 24 hours, which I've done before, you get good saturation, but it's not as crisp because the cells can sometimes move, things shuffle in there. So I personally like to use heat. A lot of other people don't, but that's my preference. Okay, so my oven is cool enough. I can touch these metal grates. Now I don't want to put the bed right up against this where the broiler was hot, because that will probably be too hot for the bed. If you get beds too hot, all the colors start to meld together, becomes very mushy. I've even made discs completely black before by getting them too hot. So that you have to be very careful when working with ovens. A lot of people use heating pads, heat lamps. Those are better options, I think. I just don't have any of them at this point. So, and I've learned how to use the oven, and so that's what I use. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this disc, put it in the middle rack, and we will check on it in about 4 hours. Okay, so it's been 4 hours. So now it's time to wash off the disc. There she is. Get her dried up and show you the pictures of her.